Losing $50 triggers a genuine grief response in the brain of a low-income person, the same neurological cascade that follows a death in the family. Scientists have confirmed this, and here is the part that stops people cold. A wealthy brain is structurally incapable of experiencing that response. Not unwilling, incapable. The difference between those two words is everything. To understand why, you have to understand what the brain does when it perceives a threat to survival. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, doesn't distinguish between a lion in the grass and a missing rent payment. Not when missing, that payment means your children don't eat. The body floods with cortisol, the chest tightens, the mind locks into a loop it cannot escape. This is not metaphor, this is measurable biology. Researchers at Princeton University ran a now famous series of experiments. They found that financial scarcity consumed so much cognitive bandwidth that it effectively lowered measurable IQ by 13 points. 13 points. That is the equivalent of losing a full night's sleep every single day. The poor are not making worse decisions because they lack discipline. They are making decisions while their brain is perpetually on fire. But the grief piece goes even deeper than cognitive load. Psychologists draw a distinction between instrumental loss and symbolic loss. When a wealthy person loses $50, it is an instrumental loss, mildly annoying, quickly forgotten, because the $50 was never load-bearing. When a person living paycheck to paycheck loses $50, it is a symbolic loss. It represents safety. It represents the difference between a phone that stays on and one that goes dark. And symbolic loss, psychologists tell us, is processed through the same neural architecture as grief. The prefrontal cortex begins to catalog what is gone. The anterior cingulate cortex registers the pain as if it were physical. Studies using functional MRI have shown that financial loss in resource-scarce individuals activates the same regions as social rejection and bereavement. Your brain does not know the difference between losing your mother and losing your last $50, when that $50 was all that stood between you and nothing. Now, consider the wealthy brain navigating the same event. Neuroscientists describe a concept called the psychological buffer, a kind of cognitive cushion that wealth quietly builds over time. When loss occurs, the buffer absorbs the emotional impact before it reaches the alarm centers. The wealthy person's amygdala simply does not fire at the same intensity because the deeper brain knows, on a structural level, that the loss is not existential. $50 lost is already replaced by $50 elsewhere. This is not a moral failing on either side. It is the predictable output of two completely different nervous systems shaped by completely different environments. The wealthy person did not choose to have a buffered amygdala any more than the poor person chose to have a hypervigilant one. Years of scarcity literally rewire neural pathways. The brain of someone who grew up poor has been trained, through thousands of small emergencies, to treat financial loss as a life or death signal, because often it was. The psychologist Senthil Mullainathan, who co-authored the landmark book on scarcity, describes it this way: the mind of someone in poverty is not a broken mind. It is a mind doing exactly what evolution designed it to do. It is running triage, constantly, on every available resource. The problem is that triage mode was built for short-term survival, not long-term planning. And when you are always in triage, the future collapses into the present. Tomorrow disappears. Only right now matters, because right now is burning. This explains a phenomenon that wealthier observers often find baffling. Why do people with so little sometimes make financial decisions that seem self-defeating? Why spend money on something non-essential when you are behind on rent? The answer lies in what researchers call the scarcity trap. The brain under resource stress releases the future in exchange for relief in the present. It is not irrationality. It is a neurological survival trade, and the tax it levies is enormous. There is also the compounding grief of anticipatory loss, the grief of the money you do not yet have, but are already afraid of losing. Studies show that low-income individuals spend an average of 3 times more mental energy worrying about finances than middle or upper-income individuals. 3 times. That is a cognitive tax running silently in the background of every conversation, every meal, every moment that should be rest. The wealthy rarely experience this particular brand of exhaustion because anticipatory loss requires the possibility of real loss to function. What makes this especially painful to examine is the social invisibility of the grief itself. When someone loses a loved one, there are rituals, there is language, there is permission to mourn. But when a low-income person loses money, loses the thing their nervous system has classified as survival, there is no ritual. There is often shame instead. Society tells them they should have planned better, saved more, spent less. The grief gets buried under blame, which does not dissolve it. It ferments. Psychologists who work specifically with low-income populations report that this buried financial grief accumulates across a lifetime. It does not expire. Each loss layers on top of the last. The car that broke down 3 years ago, the medical bill that never got paid, the job that disappeared without warning. Therapists call this compounding financial trauma. It behaves clinically like complex PTSD, hypervigilance, emotional numbing, a persistent sense that safety is always one emergency away from vanishing completely. And here is where the inequality of grief becomes something more than psychological theory. Because complex trauma reshapes behavior in ways that can span generations. Children raised in households saturated with financial stress absorb the hypervigilant nervous system of their parents. Epigenetic research suggests that sustained economic stress can alter gene expression in ways that are passed to offspring. Poverty does not just take money. It takes the neurological architecture that allows you to feel safe. And it takes it from people who have not yet been born. The wealthy inherit assets. The poor, too often, inherit alarm. And that inherited alarm does not look like grief from the outside. It looks like poor choices, bad priorities, short-term thinking. But when you press your ear against the data, the neuroscience, the longitudinal studies, the clinical reports, what you are actually hearing is the sound of a nervous system that has been shaped by decades of real loss into something that can never fully stop grieving because it has never been allowed to believe the danger has passed. This is not an argument that money buys happiness. It is something more specific and more unsettling than that. It is an argument that money buys neurological peace, the ability to lose something without your body treating it as a death, the ability to feel financial pain without that pain activating grief architecture. That particular piece, quiet, structural, invisible, is one of the most profound advantages wealth confers. And it is almost never counted when we talk about inequality. So the next time someone asks why the poor cannot simply make better decisions, why they cannot think more long-term, why they seem stuck, remember that their brain is operating under a cognitive and emotional tax that the wealthy brain is genuinely incapable of fully imagining. Not because the wealthy lack empathy, because their brain has never been forged in the conditions that make the tax real. $50 is $50. But $50, when it is the last $50, is grief. And grief, neuroscience now confirms, changes everything.